permissible in one school but not permissible in another school, right? Now that shows to me that it is man-made law. Now my point, now you raised 2 points. What we talked about, what we think fiqh is, but then you also said, well, this idea that we want to see a society run by Christian or Islamic principles. And on that, we're on the same page.
Yes, if you're loyal to your beliefs.
Exactly. As a Christian, I'm not in favour of the liberal progressive worldview. I'm not.
Thank you.
I'm not in favour of a liberal progressive worldview. I am in favour of a new Christendom. I argue for it in this park.
Right.
I advocate for it. I advocate for a Christian theocracy. And in our understanding of Christian theocracy, we are honest about the fact that human beings make laws. It's called secular law. And I guess I'm saying is that Muslims are kind of tricking themselves into thinking that fiqh is divine law. It's not. Sharia law is not divine law. Sharia law is working maybe from divine principles or divine values given in the Quran, but it's not divine law, it's man-made law. So in other words, you also have ended up with a kind of man-made law, basically. And it's not a divine law. I'll give you one example and then I'll land in the Quran.
Yeah.
So in one of the legal schools, something like you can't eat crabfish or lobster. Like,
Hanafi.
it's in the Hanafi school. And in the other 3 schools you can. But they're working from the same book, the same verse, the same passage. But they've come by different principles of fiqh to different contradictory conclusions. Right? And to me, if a law is from God, if you're claiming that a law is from God, it can't be man-made. And yet fiqh clearly is man-made law. It's no better than Western secular law. It's not different to Western secular law. So that's the point I'm making.
Well, I think the Muslims who make some kind of statement against man-made law, I am with this statement and against it. So I don't think it's an accurate or correct statement. Islam is against man-made law. I don't really take that. I don't follow that view.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really apply to me. So I believe it's okay to make man-made laws as long as the man-made law does not contradict the laws of God.
Yes.
Right. So I don't take it as a blanket, but what I do, instead of jumping on a high horse, I kind of assume or seek to clarify when you say you're against man-made law, are you meaning you're against man-made laws that are made in contradiction against the laws of God? That's what I think they mean. You following what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so we're talking about man-made laws. For example, you said fiqh is man-made law.
Yes.
Right. I see it very differently. The fiqh is on developing understandings based on the laws of God. So the foundational guide would be based on the laws of God.
Yeah.
And you try to understand that and contextualize that. For example, an ambulance will drive past. If we have rules among us, you're living in England, I'm living in England, you're in London, I'm in London. So if there are rules,
yes,
we mutually agree that give preference, give way to the ambulance.
Amen.
To me, it's a man-made law, but it's divinely connected because you're saving life. And God wants us to save life. In the scriptures, life is precious.
Yes.
So to make a law about ambulance or to make a law about traffic light, that is in accordance with the laws of God because life is precious and preserved.
Yeah.
So man-made law is not wrong except when man-made laws are put above the laws of God and it is in contradiction to the laws of God.
Yeah.
So I agree with man-made laws, but I also understand what they're trying to say.
Okay. So,
but fiqh is not, I don't see fiqh as against divine ruling. I see the development of fiqh is appreciation, respect for the ambulance, the police, the blue light laws, and all these other things. Okay. I see it as a development.
Right, so let me respond to that. And I just want to thank you for the calm conversation and the fact that you can listen to me as well. Yeah. And that's really wonderful. That's what
I've listened to you a lot.
That's what Speaker's Corner is meant to be about. Right. So my point is, I want to some degree, part of my argument is just about correct categorization, right? But I don't want to slip into sophism. I don't want to slip into just arguing about words for their own sake. I don't think, as it were, the Dawah Gandhists are being honest with people when they talk about Sharia law being divine law. right? And it seems that you agree with me that when they phrase it like that, they're not being honest, because fiqh, as we both agree, is about man's understanding. And you said divine commandments, but I would maybe recategorize that. Divine principles.
All right, okay.
Divine values.
Yes.
Divine doctrines.
Yes.
And then what they do is they work out, okay, here's a divine principle, here's a divine doctrine, here's a divine value. How can we express that in reality? And that is fiqh, right? Or what we in the Western tradition call secular law, right? And so we make a distinction. We
The
say,
secular law is not comparable to religious law.
Abdullah, let me finish.
Yeah, sorry, Bob.
Sorry.
No, sorry.
So let's be clear. In the Christian tradition, we make the distinction between religious life and secular life, but we imagine in the Christian tradition that both religious life and secular life are both governed by the same divine principles and values. But secular law, so our Christian secular governments, and I'm not saying Britain is or the West is right now, they're not, they're liberal secular governments, but our Christian secular governments, when they did exist, and God willing when they do exist in the future, are making man-made laws based on their interpretation of divine principles, values and doctrines. And so what I'm saying is, lots of Muslims argue that Christianity is just a private religion. Jesus only gave instructions for private life. He doesn't give instructions for guiding society, but Islam is a complete world system for the individual and for society. And that doesn't actually ring true to my ears, because they're based on an Enlightenment characterization of what Christianity is. And Christianity does create secular law, but our secular law is equivalent to your fiqh. It's both man-made. It's man-made law. For you, it's the madhabs. For us, it's the kingdoms. Like this French Christian kingdom makes its laws, this German Christian makes its laws, this Ethiopian kingdom makes its laws. They have different rulings, but they're all working to the same principles. Like you have different madhabs working to different principles. And so, my critique is of this salesmanship, this idea of that Sharia law is divine, when it's not, because it's made up of fiqh. Now, one other point, which I think is relevant, and then I'll land, right? You have tried to suggest that we as Christians and you as Muslims have similar principles, like that, all life is equally valid, or all life is held in equal regard. But Christian law and Islamic law are very different. There is a scale of value in Islamic law in which it goes down, and Christians are beneath Muslims and Jews are beneath Muslims. Whereas Christian law says you, even though you're a Muslim, should still be equal under Christian law with me as a Christian. And so we're not talking about similar values, which is how I thought I heard you suggest. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Right. I think for me, I wish to clarify that Sharia, the word Sharia, for you is equal to law. For me, it does not. And you might be right and I might be wrong. However, the word Sharia literally in modern standard Arabic means a street or a path.
Yes.
And in religion, in a context of religion, it means the way of God. And it is not specific to laws or capital punishment. So when I am talking about Sharia, or when I'm hearing you talking about Sharia, I am assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brock, please, that you're referring to Sharia law. Whereas for me, my understanding is not specific to law, but it's about conditions, circumstances, and following the ways of the prophets and the rightly divine scriptures. That's what Sharia means to me. So I take a broader view of it. Now, you made some points about the Dawah group being dishonest.
Yes.
I can't comment on that. I can't comment on that, and I choose not to comment on that. But what I would say is that, which I said before, is that I strongly believe, no, I'm good. I'm fully covered down. Thanks. Yeah. I strongly believe that when it comes to the sanctity of life, I think Muslims, Christians, and Jews in their book has a shared view on the sanctity of life.
Right.
Now, I understand what you were saying before, that there's some kind of readings where, or some kind of understandings and interpretation where in a society, a Muslim is very different to a Christian in terms of some kind of value system. Right. I get what you're trying to get to. Yeah, I get that. But for me, my position is I don't see the scriptures that I read, the Quran that I read, or the Islam that I follow says that in law, two people should be treated unfairly on the basis of their faith. So for example, if you live in a Muslim country, or Britain becomes a Muslim country and you live in here, that you should be treated by law unfairly and I should be favored. I don't see the religion as purporting that. I don't take that view. And I do understand that some people may take that view. So, and I understand what you're saying. You may find that kind of information on the internet. But for me, I don't share those views.
Right. Are you done?
Yeah, sure.
So, and I think your sentiments are very commendable. But that isn't the attitude of the Salafi. That isn't the attitude of the Sahaba. Because when it comes to blood money, for instance, when you look about in the Hadiths, when it talks about blood money, it says that the blood money for a Christian is half that of a Muslim. If a Muslim kills a Muslim, one of the rights of the Muslim victim's family is to demand the death of the Muslim killer. It's called qisas, blood for blood, right? But a Christian can never, if they are murdered by a Muslim, the Christian family can never demand the life of a Muslim. And also, if they can only have blood money. But the blood money, say a Muslim family is the victim of a Muslim kills a Muslim and a Christian, right? The Muslim family could claim the life of the murderer, the Christians couldn't. The Muslims, if they accept blood money, the value of blood money that is paid to the Christians cannot be the same as that of the Muslim. Now my point to you is that I would say, given your sentiments, what you've expressed, which are noble, just, honourable, that you're actually closer to the Christian concept of law than an Islamic concept of law. And that actually, Abdul, if you can recognise that, you've got a reason to step further away from Islam and move closer to Christ.
Yeah. Well, I understand what you're saying, and I get that. But from my perspective, when the Quran speaks about one person killing another person, the Quran does not advocate money for compensation of death. The Quranic theme that I read from advocate forgiveness is better. So the Quran encouraged mankind not to kill each other, but in the event one man kill another man, then forgiveness is what the Quran is pushing. So that's the spirit of it. Now, in a case where we cannot acquire that, then some sort of compensation has to be adjudicated. Now, I don't want to go deep into this because I'm no expert in the matter. As a matter of fact, you may do more research in this matter than me. So I'm quite happy to listen to what you're saying, and I could possibly go back and do a little research and reading. But from what I have known, what I read, the spirit of the Quran is to avoid bloodshed as much as you can, and in the event of it happening, forgiveness and reconciliation is the better option for both parties.
Right. Yeah. So, again, very noble sentiments, very honourable sentiments, things that I laud you for, things that I applaud you for. But I think it's fair to say that maybe I have studied this more than you, right? Because, and I wanted to ask you a very direct question. It's Abdullah, right?
Yes.
A very direct question, Abdullah. Do you agree that a law that creates discrepancies of the equality of the value of the human person, as in saying that black people are not equal to white people, or that Christians are not equal to Muslims, that such a legal system should be rejected by every good, conscionable person? Should we reject those kind of legal frameworks?
Sort of. Meaning to say, the whole concept of equality, I'm not with it.
Neither am I from a liberal perspective.
But from what you're saying, the discrimination, the superiority thing, obviously I'm not with that. Brilliant. So I'm with you on that.
Good.
But at the same time, I'm not trying to suggest that everything is equal and all of us is equal. We're not equal. We have never been equal. We have never been treated equally. That's a fact of life.
No,
but I understand what you're saying. From what you said, I agree with that.
Right.
Yes.
So, I would point out to you, Abdullah, and you can please go away and research this.
Yeah, of course.
In all the four main madhabs, all of them uphold religious apartheid. Now, I gave you an example.
Religious apartheid.
A religious apartheid, yes.
Okay.
Where Christians are second-class citizens to Muslims. Now, I gave you an example from Qisas and Blood Moon, right? That was the first example. But another example of the same is, and maybe this one is one that you're actually familiar with,
Okay.
is that as a Muslim in the Sharia law, you can marry a non-Muslim Christian or Jew, right? As a wife. You can have them as one of your wives. But a woman, a Muslim woman, even if she's in love with a Christian man, can't marry a Christian man. Now, that's discriminatory in two senses. It discriminates against the woman because it means that the woman doesn't have equal rights to the man. And it discriminates against the Christian because a Christian man can't have the equal rights to a Muslim man. We can't do the same action in reverse direction. Now, that's an example that you're more familiar with, I'm sure. And so this would be a demonstrable example of discrimination in Sharia law that you've just agreed just 2 minutes ago that is something we should step away from. That is something we should oppose and we should remove ourselves from. So do you condemn that practice within the Muslim culture that you could marry a Christian or a Jew, but I can't marry a Muslim in Sharia law?
Now, let me see if I can wrap my head around this, Bob.
Yeah, okay.
First of all, as I said before, I don't believe in superiority. I don't believe in equality. And I don't believe that in a family structure, every party is equal. I don't believe in that.
Yeah.
Right. And from where I come from a Christian background, raised in a Christian home, single parent, very poor, from Trinidad and Tobago. We come from a background where the man is the head of the home.
Yes.
He is the sultan, he is the authority of the home.
Okay.
And there's no equal rights between the wife and the husband. The children doesn't have equality. So now, if we look at that structure, we can see that similar structure in history, in kingdoms, in Christianity, and in some parts of Judaism.
Yes.
Now, so to take that now from an Islamic point of view and equate that to apartheid, I am not sure I'm with you on that one, because you mentioned apartheid.
It is apartheid.
Right. So if you call this apartheid, that's fine. I will take that. So I will accept this apartheid being historically context, historically referenced, both in the Jewish scriptures, Jewish practice, Islam, and Christianity.
Okay.
That is, number one, in a family structure, the man is not equal to the woman. And it's the exact same thing in Islam. Now, some of the modernized Christians would want to move into the equality, saying man and woman is equal, and therefore Islam is apartheid because Islam doesn't agree. And I think this is where some of the arguments come. Some of the Muslims take tension or take issue with the Christian community to support the modernist agenda in reconstructing the family life into making everybody equal.
Right.
And to some extent, they give the woman more rights than the man, and they give the children more rights than the father, that even a child could call the police and get both parents locked up in prison. So I understand where that tension is, but I'm not with you on the point where we should buy into the modernization of equality within a family structure where man and woman and child, everybody's equal.
Okay, so I think you've kind of missed the argument that I've made. So allow me to remake it. Because you went off into a segue.
Okay.
And you attacked a position I don't hold.
Okay.
I don't agree with equality. I agree with you that equality is not a Christian value.
Oh.
But I do believe in equality under the law, which is a different concept. And so what we've got here is, I agree that, children are not equal to their parents. The Christian position is that a man is the head of his own household, right? These are social structures, and those social structures should be honored, and those social structures should be supported by culture.
Sanctified.
They should be supported by auxiliary laws that uphold those values. But what I mentioned was an example in which Islam enshrines and encodes a discrimination towards women in adjacent to Muslim men. So saying that a Muslim man can marry a non-Muslim woman, but a Muslim woman can't marry a non-Muslim man. And that then also discriminates against the Christian man, because based on your logic, there's no actual objection to Muslims, women marrying Christian men, because we both agree the man is the head of the household. And so the man should govern his house according to Christian love, in love and charity, in which he honors his wife and loves his wife like Christ loves the church.
Yes.
That Muslim woman is going to be in a good position, because she's being loved like Christ loves the church. That's a good thing, you know. Whereas in Islam, you're saying that marriage can't happen, so you're discriminating against the man and you're discriminating against the woman, but your reasoning to justify that doesn't justify the discrimination.
Okay.
Because that's a social value.
Yes.
And what you're doing is you're creating an inequality in law, so it is a religious apartheid. Now let me ask you this question, Abdullah. Let's imagine we create a society in which Muslims don't have the same rights as Christians in a Christian society. Would you object to that? If Muslims, for instance, let's say that if someone converts to Islam, we should kill them. If that we shut down mosques where, you know, or we forbid the building of mosques, or forbid the repairing of mosques. Or we said, for instance, that Muslim men can't marry Christian women, but Christian men can marry Muslim women, and we support that in law. Or we said that Muslims can't do dawah on the street. Be honest with me now, Abdullah, would you call that Islamophobic? Would you say that that's discrimination? Would you say that that's unjust?
Can I reply to the first point you make and then get to that second point?
Of course you can. Yeah. That's what I've been doing.
So you said, which is very crystal clear, discrimination and apartheid. Those are two very powerful words.
Correct.
And what you're saying, the mere fact that a Muslim man is allowed to marry a Christian woman, but a Christian woman is not allowed to marry a Muslim man.
Sorry, a Christian man can't marry a Muslim woman.
Right, a Christian man cannot marry a Muslim woman. And for you, that's apartheid.
That's an example of apartheid, yes.
Yes, that's apartheid. But the question is, do you call what's happening in Palestine and Israel apartheid?
Are you handing the conversation back to me?
I'm just trying to build a little bit of ground.
I'll let you
into the definition of apartheid.
I'll let you make
into. No, so I'm just trying to build some ground. Because for me, when we use the word apartheid,
yes,
we send in very strong messages. Except if you work for the media and you're trying to evoke some exaggeration. But the question is, when we use the word apartheid and discrimination, these are two very powerful words.
Do you want an example of an apartheid state?
No, just I'm asking, for me, my question is, which I want you to help me. Do you see the Zionist actions for the past 80 years as apartheid? That's the question I'm trying to ask.
Okay, and I will address that. I want to make.
And if you agree with that, then we're going back to the same point.
So an example of an apartheid state is Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia applies apartheid laws in which Christians don't have equal rights to Muslims in Saudi Arabia. They can't practice their religion publicly. People can't convert to Christianity from Islam. Christians don't have equal compensation rights for blood money or in terms of qisas. Christians can't marry who they want. Even if a Muslim wants to marry a Christian and a Christian wants to marry a Muslim, that can't be allowed.
Right.
So that is my example of an apartheid
classic
system, right?
Classic example.
So that is a classic
perfect example.
Perfect example of an apartheid system.
Right.
And I'm saying that good people should oppose that system. And in Israel, none of those matter. That there is discrimination in Israel,
but not apartheid.
I'm getting to it.
All right, go on.
There is discrimination in Israel.
All right.
But
in England, there's discrimination.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And so Israel is probably at the upper end of the spectrum of discrimination, but it hasn't passed the boundary of apartheid. Why?
Or it has not passed the boundary.
Why?
So Israel is not apartheid.
Why? Because in Israel, and I'm not going to allow this debate to get sunk into a let's blame the Jews kind of argument.
No, we're not going there,
Good.
Bob. Honestly.
But my point is good.
You raised the question of apartheid.
And I'm answering
you do
the
it.
question.
And I'm trying to get a reference
I'm
of
I'm
apartheid.
giving
And you
one
said Saudi Arabia is the classic,
reference.
the most perfect example of apartheid. But Israel is not.
Agreed. And here's the reason why. In Israel, I don't know the exact number of how many Arab citizens there are, but Arab citizens in Israel have exactly the same right as Jewish citizens in Israel. There is an Arab judge who has passed judgment on the Jewish Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu. So much so that Netanyahu's government is trying to change the law about what the judges can do because an Arab judge pronounced judgment.
What's the name of that judge?
What? I don't remember his name.
How you know he's Arab?
Yeah, I know it because I've read about it.
Okay.
But I read about it ages ago, like when the court case was happening inside Israel. But that was it was a couple of years old now, so I don't remember his name, and I'm rubbish with names anyway.
Okay.
So yes, there's discrimination in Israel, absolutely.
As there's discrimination in Britain.
As there's discrimination in Britain.
But Israel is not
as bad as Saudi Arabia.
No, we're not talking about bad. You see the concept of good and bad?
Right.
We've gone past that. We are talking about
an apartheid like Saudi Arabia.
No.
And like Sharia law.
It is not apartheid, or it's not apartheid as.
It is not an apartheid.
It's not apartheid.
It's not an apartheid.
Saudi is apartheid.
Yes.
But Israel is not apartheid.
Correct.
Good. I understand that. So I'm just trying to get an understanding. In your mind, what is in your mind as a reference is apartheid.
And now you're crystal clear.
Crystal clear. So what we say now, Islam is apartheid.
Correct.
And Islam is apartheid because the man is allowed to marry a Christian woman, Muslim man, but a Christian man cannot marry a Muslim woman.
And also, for that, a Muslim woman can't marry a Christian man. Right. So there's two kinds of discrimination: one against women, and the other against Christians.
Again, so just who can marry who, and who not allowed to marry who. That in itself is your definition of apartheid.
No, because obviously marrying children is wrong.
No,
and wait. Marrying children is morally wrong. And so groups that advocate for marrying children, like the left-wing paedophile progressive movement that pushes for the sexualization of children, or even some of your co-religionists in this park who advocate for marrying children, and I don't know what position you hold on that, Abdullah. Obviously, you should not be able to marry children.
Right.
Because children don't have compos mentis ability to make adult-like decisions. They don't have the brain power to do that. They've not got the brain development. And so it isn't a case that just because the law discriminates between one position and another, therefore you've got apartheid. But it is when you've got like for like, i.e. man for man or woman for woman, that you end up discriminating along those lines. That's when we can talk about apartheid, because I'm sure you agree that what happened in South Africa and what happened in America in the 1950s and the 1960s was an apartheid. It was a racial apartheid. There were laws, or in Nazi Germany, there were laws that said a Jewish woman couldn't marry a German man. Or in South Africa, a black woman couldn't marry a white man. And same in America. That's an apartheid. All I'm doing is changing out the words black for Christian and white for Muslim. And it's the same logic. That's why it's an apartheid.
Thank you, Bob. It was a pleasure. And we shall continue.
I'm not going to be here. All right, Abdullah.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.
You look after yourself.
All right. Thank you so much. All right.
So, ladies and gentlemen, over there, wrap up. Abdullah is a lovely human being. We like him. He's a nice guy. But what you just saw is Abdullah was silenced. Abdullah was silenced because he knows what I said was correct. He knows that my argument is sound. And he therefore knows in his heart, Abdullah, can I give you a gift?
Sure.
I'm sure you've got a Bible, right? So I don't need to give you a Bible.
We have it all online as well. We have the app.
Do you have
the Bible? Bible app.
Everybody
use it. Everybody use it.
All right, let me give you an analog Bible.
So I use a big print.
Okay, I get that. Fair enough. Let me give you
so I would only use a big print.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if I've got a big print, and the answer to that question is probably not. So let me give you something else instead. Bear with us 1 second. And I just want to give it, Abdullah, just to show that you know, whatever I say, it's not said in hatred, it's said in love.
No hatred.
And
We love Muslims.
we do love Muslims.
Yeah.
You know what Islam stands for me?
What?
It stands for I sincerely love, I sincerely Islam love all Muslims.
Yeah! That's cool.
Alright, Bob, thanks a lot.
Oh, Bob
Thank you.
Sila.
Have a good one.
You look happy.
Thank you.